Everyone, welcome to Plants and Politics. So, I don't know if you've heard the news, but across the country, Republican voters have been fleeing the GOP like never before. Within just hours of the Capitol attack taking place, California Assemblyman Chad Mays said that his phone started to blow up. He was getting calls from constituents and politicians, all informing him that they were changing their registration and leaving the Republican Party. He was the GOP leader of the assembly, but he even had changed his registration to no party preference back in 2018. And as with Mays, who controls an area or is an assemblyman for areas in Riverside and San Bernardino counties in Southern California, Orange County also experienced a huge Republican retreat. Just within the 2 days from the date of the insurrection attempt to January 8th, so January 6th to 8th, the Orange County, California Republican Party lost 600 voters over a 2-day period. They lost 8 times more voters than what they gained over those same 2 days. And liberal California wasn't the only state to see this mass exodus. Between January 7th and January 22nd, 5,855 Republican voters left the party and re-registered as no party affiliation in North Carolina, as compared to only 210 for Democrats who did the same. During that same period of time, another 561 Republicans re-registered as Democrats, 209 switched to the Libertarian Party, 134 moved to the Constitution Party, and 4 became Green Party members. But there's way more. These numbers are nothing compared to Pennsylvania. In just the first 25 days in January, almost 10,000 people left the Republican Party in Pennsylvania. Almost 3,500 of that 10,000 re-registered as Democrats. The other ones registered as no party preference or with third parties. Colorado and Maryland also saw huge shifts with over 4,500 and 2,300 respectively leaving the party. And in addition, Florida reported thousands of registration changes following the Capitol attack. There are, however, 2 distinct groups. Not everyone who's leaving the party is leaving for the same reason. And I'm sure there's more than 2 groups, but there's 2 very distinct groups that stand out. One is the group of conservatives who find the idea of an attempted coup to be abhorrent, and I agree. That's not what they want to be associated with, right? These are traditional Republicans, they're traditional conservatives. This group, by and large, is also the group that wants a return to normalcy. And that's what concerns me. That's not what I want. They care more about the debt and the deficit than the 30 million Americans who are out of work right now, who lost their health insurance, and who need stimulus checks immediately. They're still against Medicare for all. They're still against spending. So even though they don't like Trump and they don't like the MAGA crowd, they don't agree with the QAnon conspiracy side of the party, they're still not willing to embrace populist ideals. The other group believes that Republican politicians didn't fight hard enough to overturn the election. They're totally cool with the attempted insurrection at the Capitol. They think it was totally fine. These are your QAnon Trump-loving loons. Now, although the first group is obviously more logical, more fact-driven, I don't think Democrats should embrace either group unless and until they agree to abide by House rules. And here's what I mean by that. I'm not talking about the House and Congress. I mean that to say, when someone invites you over to their house, you abide by their rules. You don't walk in and start rearranging their furniture. You don't start disciplining their children. You don't do whatever you feel like doing. You don't just take off your shoes and put your feet on the counter. I mean, And you don't walk in and say, hey, I don't like what you cooked, so you're going to need to make something else. I mean, I'm vegan and I've never done that. I've never asked anyone to make anything special or consider my diet when I'm invited to their home. I have to abide by their rules. If I don't want to eat what they're serving, I don't eat, or I bring my own food. But you don't go into someone else's home and tell them to change the way they're doing things. So Republicans shouldn't join the Democratic Party if their goal is to change it to suit their needs. Now, if they're populist type of Republicans and they want to join with progressives to get money out of politics or to get aid to people in need or enact Medicare for all, I'm totally on board with that. I welcome them with open arms. But if their only goal is to move the Democratic Party further to the right, which Bill Clinton already did a great job of, and they want it to fit their ideals and their agenda, oh, hell no. Hell no. To those people, I say, go form a third party. If neither party is what you want, go form a third party. Hold a party at your own house. Have people over to your own house. Don't tell the owner of the house what they need to do and what they need to change. What I don't want to see, and what I was afraid of in nominating someone who's centrist like Biden, is a realignment and an even greater lurch to the right. And people say Democrats are on the left clearly because they embrace same-sex marriage and a woman's right to choose and Black Lives Matter and blah, blah, blah. Okay, name one thing that Democrats embrace that has to do with economics. Those are all identity politics, and those are all social issues. When it comes to economic policies, Democrats have already been too willing to accommodate moderate Republican agenda. They're excited about and too willing to go along with voting for massive military spending, the endless wars, catering to their corporate donors, and in doing so, refusing to enact overwhelming popular policies like $15 an hour minimum wage, Medicare for all, things that will actually truly change people's lives. You know, as the saying goes, dance with the one who brought you. If you want to keep progressives who by and large sucked it up and voted for Biden, even though they didn't want him, and helped to drag him across the finish line, because make no mistake, it was progressives. It was very liberal Democrats and progressives who did that. Look at the numbers. It was a very, very small percentage of Republicans who actually crossed the aisle and voted for Biden. So Democrats need to realize who has always been with them and who they should be catering to. And not just with kente cloth, but with actual policy changes. Even within the social stuff, they're not willing to make the necessary changes. Yeah, they'll put on kente cloth, but will they stand up and demand real change when it comes to policing? Will they stand up and demand that some of the money that these police departments across the nation are getting should go to other services that would make more sense, like mental health? Throughout history, we've experienced this. We've seen these realignments in the parties. You know, it's how the party of Lincoln became the party of thinly veiled racist dog whistles like welfare queens with Ronald Reagan. It's how the party of Lincoln was okay with Richard Nixon's outright racism, using the N-word in audio tapes that were released, and allowing him to cheat to win election and not prosecuting him, not doing anything about it, allowing him to walk away, much like what they're doing with Trump. It's how that party morphed into the Trumplican Party, which is now home to literal white supremacists, white nationalist military members, literal grand wizards from the KKK, like David Duke. It was a slow slide down that slippery slope. ever since the Southern strategy. And unless Democrats want to do the same thing, unless they want to see in 10, 20 years, all of their power slip away and the party becomes something that nobody recognizes anymore, they need to step up and they need to find their ovaries. Democrats hold all seats of power now in DC, albeit with slight margins, but they are 100% in control. And they have the ability right now to use budget reconciliation to push a truly popular and progressive agenda, not just for Democrats, but for the good of all American people on both sides of the aisle. They have a chance like never before, or not for many, many years, I should say, to prove that they will do something good for the people. They will remain in power for a long time if they can prove that. If they can't, the midterms are going to be ugly. And if they cave to pressure from Republican officials and these new conservative voters who just joined the Democratic Party, they're going to prove that they can't be trusted with power any more than the Republicans can, but for a very different reason. At least when Republicans are in power, they know how to use it. I don't agree with how they use it. I think it's disgusting. I think the way Mitch McConnell just bowls everyone over and plays by his own rules is completely vile. But they don't waste time trying to play footsies with the Democrats. They don't waste time trying to pretend that they actually care about bipartisanship because they know what their voters sent them there to do. So they do it. When will Democrats start caring more about their voters than their esteemed colleagues on the other side of the aisle? I'm so sick of it. It's time to cut the bullshit. I don't care about your friends. We didn't send you to DC to make friends. We sent you to DC to make policy. We sent you to DC to make changes. So it's time for you to step up and take action. If this continues to happen, if Democrats keep pulling their punches, if they keep acting weak and they keep allowing Republicans to push them to the right, I, for one, am done with both parties. And I know many more who feel the same. I hope people recognize this. And again, Republicans, hey, great to have you on board. Great to have you in our house. But yeah, don't start decorating. Don't start rearranging the furniture. All right. As always, guys, like, share, subscribe. Thanks so much for watching and listening. I'll talk with you soon. Take care.